How's it? I'm up here on Molokai getting ready for the Maui to Molokai race, and we have two boats up here at our ranch, and I want to change out the Dacron rope that comes with the boat into stainless cable, and I'm going to show you how to do it. First off, you're going to need some stuff before you get started. You're going to need 24 feet of 1/16 inch cable, stainless of course, and then you're going to need crimps. I got these from West Marine here. They're a 1.9 fit over the 16th inch cable. Also, you're going to need heat shrink to go over it when you get done. You're going to need cutting pliers, crimping tools, a Phillips screwdriver, some sort of a heat source like a lighter to do the heat shrink, and some scissors and some tape. Everything laid out. I've got my stainless cable, my crimps, the heat shrink all pre-cut. These are my cutting pliers, my crimping tool, of course a screwdriver, some scissors. First thing to do is to remove the cover. So you're going to just undo all these screws very gently. This is what it looks like once you get the cover off. Something to keep in mind, you can damage the boat with the screw gun, so be very careful if you use a screw gun. I recommend a Phillips screwdriver. I'm just being a little bit lazy. Once you get the cover off, then you're going to go ahead and come back to the tail, and you're going to pull the rudder out. And then you'll pull the rudder completely out of the boat. And what you're going to do is pop this cover off. Take my cutting pliers. I'm going to turn this cover over, and I'm going to cut off the Dacron rope knot. Once you get it cut off and pulled out, you'll see that it has a little hole there. And then we're going to go to the front, and we're going to pull the Dacron rope out through the foot pedals. So you'll just come up here and slowly just start pulling the Dacron rope out, and same with the other side. Then you'll cut on the back of these foot pedals and get the knot out here. And then the next step is to feed the cable into the boat. You're going to want to keep in mind that you have extra cable on both ends so that the cable isn't too short. Start from the tail and get the cable in the hole and start pushing it forward. Very simple. Once you get the cable run, you want to make sure that you have enough excess that it hangs off the back there. This is what it looks like on the front side. Again, enough excess so that you have some hanging off on the other end. Now what we're going to do is very carefully take a drill gun with a small drill bit, just big enough so that the cable can fit through, and we're actually going to drill a hole right above the other hole. Just like that. Now we're going to go to the tail, and right there through that hole we're going to run the two pieces of cable through. It'll look just like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our crimp, we're going to slide it right onto the edge, and then we'll crimp it in place. Once it's crimped, then we're just going to take our heat shrink here and just slide it right over the end until we have enough to cover just the end of it, and then we'll snip it and heat it. Make sure when you heat the heat shrink you don't get it too close to the boat so that you don't burn your canoe. Once you get it aligned, the hard part is to make sure that you get it into the grooves on the side. Now that I got it in the grooves, I can put the rudder in. Now to make sure it's in the grooves and it's not bunched up, you can just go to the front and pull left and right on the cables to make sure that the rudder turns freely. Then we go to the tail and we look down to make sure that the rudder is perfectly straight, which of course it's not. Once I get it perfectly straight, then I will tape the wheel in place. Now you want to make sure that you tape the wheel really good in place so that it cannot move when we put tension up front. And we've got the rudder looking down. Depends on how I line the camera up, but it's really straight. Now once we get up to the front, we're going to take our piece of cable. We're going to slide the heat shrink on first, and then we're going to slide the crimp on second, just like I've done on this side. And then we're going to run it through the bottom hole and then back through the top. And once you get that all set up and ready to go, you have to determine how much you want the pedals either hiked up or laid down. You have to keep in mind you can't lay them down too much or you won't be able to turn the boat. And you don't want to hike them up too much or your toes are going to go numb. Now you can see I've got it set up and taped. Of course this side is slacked, but once I pull this pedal tight and move the crimp forward and crimp it down, I've got my 2.5 inches set, and I'll crimp and lock it in place. Once you get both sides crimped in place, then you'll just take your cutting pliers and remove the excess cable here. We'll remove this tape and we'll slide the shrink forward and heat shrink it closed. So now that we've got the tape off and we've got the excess cut as close as we can get, we're just going to slide the shrink wrap forward and slide it right over the cable, and then we'll just take a heat gun and heat shrink it closed. Now if you use an open flame, just make sure that you don't burn your boat, because that would really suck. Very carefully heat shrink it closed. Probably go one side to the other would be better. Now that it's all heat shrinked and ready to go in the front, we're going to go to the back and we're going to remove the tape. And then we'll go and we'll test to make sure that the pedals move freely. Now all that's left to do is to put on the cover. And that's it. We've got cable on the boat and we're all set. Something to keep in mind, since you have switched your boat to cable, is to make sure that you rinse the cable down with fresh water. And with the foot cover, you're going to want to get inside here to wash that bungee off, because otherwise over time the salt will eat away at the bungee. Just some side notes. The main reason why I switch my boat to cable is that I feel that there's a little bit of play or stretching, even though I'm told that's not possible, in the rope. And so I've found that cable has the most positive control of steering, especially in the bigger surf. I want the boat to turn when I want it to turn, not a split-second delay. Lastly, some of you guys might know that we've come out with a special rudder. We call it the Grip. It seems to hold well in the surf, and it's got a good grip, running hard angles and whatnot. Billy Rebello was the one that helped design it, and we've since sent the mold to, or sent the design to China to be molded by Ozone, and we should be having those out very soon. It's kind of a, I would say, different design from something normal, but the theory behind it is that when you're surfing and you're catching a bump and you drop in and the water line is here, and then all of a sudden it moves to here as you transition to a bump, you still have a fair amount of rudder holding the boat in place. A lot of the traditional rudders that you see are actually a lot smaller on the ends and won't hold as well in the big surf. Well, that's it. I've got the boats all set up, ready for Maui to Molokai tomorrow, and hope you enjoyed the video. We'll catch you later. Aloha.